Conker's Bad Fur Day was a game developed by Rare and released in 2001 on the Nintendo 64 console originally. But later on, this English company was acquired by Microsoft, along with all its intellectual properties, and this same game was re-released for the original Xbox under the name Conker Live and Reloaded, which added new things to this remake, such as improved graphics, new online features, and stricter censorship of the game, something the public didn't like. The latest release happened for the Xbox One in 2015, where a compilation of 30 games from Rare was made, named Rare Replay, which included this game with an achievement system, online and local multiplayer, and the version included was the first one. Any of the three options are basically the same and don't affect much. The game begins after the events of Conker's Pocket Tale. Sick should be Conker's Pocket Tales, with a prologue narrated by our red squirrel talking about what happened to him. It all starts like any ordinary story, with a drinking binge. He calls his girlfriend on the phone to tell her he's going to stay at a tavern with some friends who are going off to war. The rodent has one too many drinks and ends up so drunk that he gets lost when trying to go back home, waking up in a remote place with such a hangover that he can barely move. There he meets Birdie, a very foul-mouthed scarecrow who explains the game's mechanics to the character. We'll try to get back home, but as we do, we'll encounter different money-related matters that require our attention, and from there the game's story will develop. Conker's Bad Fur Day is a platformer that constantly adapts. One moment we're jumping and hitting with our frying pan. The next we'll ride a surfboard on lava or be given a weapon to defend ourselves in different scenarios created by the developers' imaginative minds, while keeping the game mechanics as similar as possible. We'll have a health bar represented by chocolates and can withstand 6 hits. There are context-sensitive zones where, by positioning the squirrel over them, he can obtain an object that will help in certain conditions, such as pulling out a slingshot, throwing toilet paper, or as varied as drinking lots of beer, getting drunk, and filling his bladder to put out little fire imps with his urine. As I said before, all this depends on context. We'll have limited lives. Grabbing a squirrel tail increases this counter. This is explained by Greg when you die for the first time, since squirrels have as many lives as they think they need to get their way. We can swim, dive, climb, jump, and use our tail as a propeller to gain a little hang time when falling, thus reaching further. We'll look for little bills with eyes, which we'll later use to unlock certain parts of the story and which will return to us. As we continue, we'll have to solve puzzles to progress. The whole game is filled with hilarious moments, fourth wall breaks, and often sexualized and gross moments. So the game creates a contrast by having cute characters and most objects having little eyes, all in a context meant for a mature audience. Hence it was rated for adults. It also takes a lot of inspiration from other works, both films and literature, with the goal of making fun of them to a certain extent, but at the same time paying a sort of tribute to them in a unique and funny way. Enemies are varied and adapt depending on where we are, from cavemen, Nazi bears, zombies, and so on, as well as the bosses we'll face, such as a vampire relative or everyone's favorite who has played this game, the great and mighty Pooh who sings opera, and we have to throw toilet paper at him. All with a good dose of gross and sexual humor in many cases. Everything gets more complicated for our alcoholic squirrel, who ends up dying in ways that involve being torn apart. If you lose all lives, the game explains the fate that befalls you for failing, and you'll have to reload for where you left off. If you lose a single life, you'll simply continue from the last checkpoint. Another positive point is the multiplayer, where we have several modes. One where you have to guide a soldier until he reaches a vehicle while the other player prevents his advance by killing him. Team combat, free-for-all, capture the flag, tank battle, feed the dinosaur, many already known to online players. The advantage, depending on which version you play, is that you can play online, but they all have split-screen functions, so if you like playing with other people in the same room, this is a plus. The game has an acceptable difficulty. Sometimes some areas will give us trouble, but it's just a matter of figuring out how to get through them, so it's unlikely we'll get stuck anywhere. I would recommend it because it's a colorful and very fun game, especially because of the jokes, but they're not for everyone. As a platformer, it's a bit difficult to handle at first. You'll be messing up while you get used to Conker's jumps. If you're looking for something simple that doesn't involve a complicated story, this is a good option. And with the value of multiplayer, you can have a great time full of laughs with your friends. I don't recommend it because it's not for everyone, especially those who might be offended by adult language and scenes, where the least of it is bloody deaths, as there's a lot of allusion to sexual content, and to some extent misogynistic undertones. It's not a game with complexity in collecting collectibles. You just have to find the bills with eyes, and most of the time, just continuing the story will get you most of them. If you want to get it, I recommend the Rare Replay version. Since you can play online, it comes with 29 other games from the company, and it's at an affordable price. The earlier versions, especially the Nintendo 64 one, have become collector's items, and their price is quite ostentatious. But if you like collecting, it's a cult game worth having complete, since the manual tends to be very funny as well. A game that represented the end of one of Nintendo's most important alliances, which is not for kids. Those who played it are waiting for a sequel, because people consider it one of the gems on its first console that hosted it. That is Conker's Bad Fur Day. I hope you liked the video. If you did, hit like. If you know someone who might like it, share on your social networks, and don't forget to subscribe if you like the channel. If you have any questions, suggestions, or just want to comment something, don't hesitate to do so in the comments box. Also, if you're a big fan of this channel, hit the notification bell to be among the first to see the videos. Thank you very much for watching this video. See you later. Bye-bye.